1017 FM is 710 KEEL. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Once again, guests on KEEL appear via Jack Spring Electric KEEL Newsmaker Hotline. One of those is Mr. Chuck Marohn. He is the president, the founder, the CEO. It's a group called Strong Towns. Good morning, Mr. Chuck. Welcome to KEEL. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Strong Towns is, well, why don't you tell us exactly what that is before we get into how some of your ideas and philosophies and theories might apply to Shreveport, Louisiana. Tell us a bit about Strong Towns and how your thoughts on urban planning and development might be a little, shall we say, out of the ordinary.
Sure. Well, Strong Towns is started out as a blog back in 2008. I'm a engineer and a planner, and I started writing about cities that I was working with and why they were struggling financially. That whole conversation took off, and today Strong Towns is a nonprofit organization working all over the United States to help cities be financially strong and resilient.
If you had to pinpoint, is there one sort of common thread or common denominator among cities across this country that are having money trouble? And dare I say, Shreveport, Louisiana might in fact be one of those.
Yeah, really the big insight that we had that I think cities are struggling with today is that the way we started to build cities after World War II, building in large blocks, building to a finished state, having neighborhoods kind of locked under glass, this is a recipe for long-term disaster. We can create a lot of growth very quickly. We can experience a lot of cash from that growth and feel really good about ourselves. But a little bit like a sugar high, there's this long-term consequence that comes to that. For the city, it's having a huge area you've got to provide service to, fix all the roads and streets and sidewalks, fix all the pipe. Those costs vastly outstrip the revenue that we get. And so really the faster we grow in this pattern, the poorer we become.
Is there sort of a meeting point, sort of a place where we've bitten off more than we can chew infrastructurally, and the American dream of home ownership can sort of coincide? Right.
I think you see this right now in Shreveport in like high fidelity. I mean, you just got the $1 billion bill on your sewer system. I actually think that's an underestimate at the end of the day, but regardless, that's a bill beyond comprehension in terms of the capacity of the community to take care of that. If you add the roads and the water system and all the disparate parks and public buildings, all the police and fire protection of these areas, these are, just staggering amounts of money that the tax base of Shreveport just can't handle. We long ago, and I mean decades and decades ago, in most cities crossed the threshold where this didn't make a lot of sense. And we have, through, all kinds of federal programs, all kinds of state programs, tried to prop this up because at the state and federal level, this growth makes a lot of sense. The state government, the federal government, does not have to come in and maintain your roads. So if they can do a big infrastructure bill and induce you to do a bunch of stuff, and they can create an opportunity zone program and, induce the city to take on a bunch of long-term liabilities, it helps the federal budget today. It hurts the city budget long-term.
Strong Towns, you guys posted this on January 9th, and I find it very intriguing. It says, it's not hard to look at Shreveport and see a struggle underway for that city's future. On the one hand, you have decades of a development approach that is making the city precariously fragile. On the other hand, you have strong citizens heroically advocating for a better way. What is the better way for Shreveport? What must our leaders do right now and down the road?
I think it starts with the idea that we have to make better use of the stuff we've already built. When you go to the neighborhoods of Shreveport, and I've toured a lot of them, there's some amazing stuff going on at the very block level. People who are taking buildings that are run down and abandoned and fixing them up. People who are taking, whole blocks and neighborhoods that have kind of been neglected and making better use of them. This is not stuff that is glamorous. You're not going to have big grand openings. You're not going to have, big top of the fold headlines on the newspaper of this stuff. But when you take a building that's a $50,000 building and you put some money and fix it up, and it's now a $60,000 or a $70,000 building, that's not glamorous, but that's a huge increase in your tax base.
What motivates me or any citizen to do that? What motivates me to take a $50,000 building and invest in it? What's the spiff for me?
I think there's two ways to answer that. One, there's a lot of very personal love for this community, and I've seen it and experienced it. There's a lot of people who do things that are economically irrational because they actually really care about the place. But if you go to just the total rational, like why would someone economically do this? If you have confidence that a neighborhood will go in a positive direction, you will invest all kinds of money into being part of that. And so the challenge we have as cities, the challenge we have as communities, is to actually give our neighborhoods hope for the future, that it will be better than today. That looks a lot like basic maintenance. Go fix the streets, go fix the sidewalks, go pick up the trash. When you do those things, neighborhoods respond.
So are places like Dallas and Houston, and is this going to come back and, bite them on the ass eventually? Are they doing it wrong?
Yeah, Houston is a financial disaster, and I met with people there quite a bit. The growth they have out on the edge, it basically floats the entire system in kind of a Ponzi scheme fashion. Dallas is a little bit better off, I think, in many ways. Dallas is a little bit more geographically contained in terms of like the actual city limits. But the suburbs and the places around Dallas are, largely in that sugar high phase, and it's starting to wear off.
Chuck Marohn,
you can think of.
Go ahead.
I was going to say you can think of Texas in many ways as like 20 years behind California. California financially, we all kind of look at and say, what a mess. Texas just got started a couple decades later. I mean, you had to have air conditioning to build all this stuff. And, in the 50s and 60s, it was California. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was Texas.
Chuck Marohn with Strong Towns, you said Houston's a financial disaster. I hear people screaming at the radio, so is Shreveport. How close is Shreveport to being a financial disaster?
Shreveport is different than a place like Houston. Houston has essentially accelerated its growth, and it has this long-term looming liability. Shreveport has just experienced this decades of neglect and decline. And you look at the things like the casinos, the big projects that have kind of been designed to prop things up. Shreveport has really suffered from not having those things work. And so you've kind of had a double whammy where the disinvestment and the decline has been kind of paired with these go-for-broke projects that have not floated the ship.
Chuck Marohn, go ahead.
I look at the downtown of Shreveport and the way that has changed over the last decade, and just the passion that people have started to have for that place and the surrounding neighborhoods. And those really are the green shoots that I think if we step back and recognize them, people can take a lot of optimism about the future.
Chuck Marohn, Strong Towns, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, and thanks just for having this conversation.
Yeah, I hope you'll join us again soon.
I would love that.
Thank you.